Hey, Anne, welcome to the podcast. I have a question for you. What the hell is dead internet?
It means that the majority of the activity on our infrastructure has been taken over by robots.
That
Humans are no
that's
longer the
depressing.
primary users.
On the internet. So
Yeah.
not in the physical space yet, but what happens on the internet goes to the physical space in a few years. So the future is bleak.
And everything that extends from that, meaning more and more of what we encounter as human users has been created by or for bots.
So there's two parts there. First is bots or AI creating content for real users. And I think that's where we are right now, or mostly where we are. But the second part of that is bots creating content for other bots. And that's where it starts getting really crazy, right?
Yeah. And I'm a technical SEO. So I think about dead internet theory from the perspective of bot crawling and website maintenance and sort of what the user experience, how that relates to the user experience decline. You and I have both noticeably, I think, recognized whether it is on social media, whether it is on the pages we click on from search, that the user experience has declined. And part of that is because of how bots have come into the picture.
Yeah, and I would add that a lot of the pages being published have not been read by a single human, including the person publishing it, if it's a person or a website owner who's publishing that. So when you have something like a programmatic SEO campaign that does hundreds of thousands of pages in a day and puts them out there online, you can guarantee that no one ever bothered to read that. So the goal with a campaign like that, I think the goal with most programmatic SEO campaigns is to fool crawlers into ranking that website higher and not to actually help users.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that kind of makes it horrible. So what can we do?
It's crushing to me because growing up in an era of Geocities,
Oh yeah.
I loved the original surfing the internet and finding those deeply human corners of content. And that part of the internet is becoming crowded out. And that's why I'm passionate about this topic. And it's part of what makes me feel pessimistic about our industry.
By industry, you don't mean just technical SEO. You mean just digital and the internet
Digital
in
marketing,
general. Yep.
digital communications, right? So, what it takes to rise above the noise is increasing at the same time that budgets are decreasing. So, what I experience is working with teams that are scrambling at 100% productivity just to keep the lights on. It's harder and harder to make exceptional experiences.
That definitely true, 100% true. Also, even if you create a wonderful experience, anyone noticing that experience with all the noise, with all the AI generated noise, AI slop, whatever people call it, is almost impossible. So what's the recipe for success then?
Well, in my mind, the recipe for success is on each individual cross training.
Mm-hmm.
If I think about what the cause of the decline in experience is, I think about the lack of maintenance. So I work on a number of websites that have security vulnerabilities, that have scripting that was added by a team for a purpose that doesn't exist anymore. We're just building websites on top of ruins.
Right. Okay.
So, in order to, and what does that beget? That begets terabytes of excessive crawling by bots who are pinging those endpoints that serve no user purpose, that might even be vulnerable or broken. So there is an energy efficiency component to it too. What does it take to solve that problem? It takes someone who is empowered to speak to and understands the reality of a number of different teams that are traditionally siloed. We're talking about security, we're talking about DevOps, we're talking about infrastructure. Each of those individual areas is extremely complex. How do you gain the credibility to marshal operations to solve for these issues unless you can speak to each of those disciplines? I think that's where the hyper expertise will emerge for website development in the near future.
I hope you're right. I hope it will. I really hope it will. But you're still talking about one company where there's one person or one team that's helping fix things. This is bigger than one company. This is a global problem. You mentioned environmental and energy deficiencies. I mean, what most people don't understand is building ruins on top of ruins that are going to become ruins the next day, and then there's another layer. It's not just obsolete code. It still uses a lot of energy to do that, to go through all of that. To crawl a website that has 1 million pages and it needs 10, I mean, that's a waste of energy, right? But how big is that problem?
On one single website, one unnecessarily exposed endpoint that I recently worked on, I calculated the carbon footprint to be something like a transatlantic flight back and forth between the US and Europe.
Over what time for that website?
Over a 3-month period.
3-month period.
That's one single endpoint on one single website, right? And most of the reason that that endpoint is being pinged isn't users or even search crawlers. It's AI bots, right? So think about that on every website on the internet where we are just contributing more and more chaff to the internet every day. And the reason I become so passionate about this topic is because as a technical SEO, it's my job to look at crawl stats, at server logs. I see what very few people who work on the web are paying attention to. It's just how many non-humans we are serving these forgotten resources to on a daily basis. And that infuriates me.
If you had to throw a number, a ballpark number, what's the percentage of dead requests, crawl requests out of the total?
60%.
So only 40% is human?
Only 40% looks human.
Even worse. Oh my God. I'm very worried because for a problem to be solved, majority of people need to acknowledge that it's a problem. We're not even close. In 5 years, I feel like we will not be close to acknowledging that this is a real problem.
I think that the internet is going to be left to rot. As
So
we
what do we do?
pivot to
Internet
our-
2.0?
Yeah, we're going to have our sort of chat-fueled alternatives that are built on having scraped that old stuff, but we're just going to let it live, and it's going to talk to itself over our powered grids for perpetuity.
So basically, the movie Idiocracy was about the internet and not about the world, right? Because it's going to end up looking like that.
I definitely hear a lot of references to that movie these days.
Oh, it's the best telling the future movie that, I mean, ever, maybe. Even to the president who did wrestling and all that stuff. It's just amazing. It's just incredible.
The challenge is how to build a career in this environment. And when you are someone who cares deeply about good user experience and bringing good quality to humans over the internet,
Right.
How do you compete when this is the sort of forgotten nature of what's actually going on in the cloud?
Yeah, you're almost like a digital hippie of some sort, where people think, what the hell is this person even trying to do? This doesn't matter. This is stupid. I mean, it is like that. Most people genuinely, it's not out of being a bad person. They just don't care. They don't care about the 60% plus of dead crawls. Like, it's just horrible. And this is such a great topic to discuss. And I really appreciate you being on the podcast. I hope whoever is listening to this, you're aware that we're doomed unless we do something. Let's
join the crusade. Let's start reducing crawl bloat. Let's start getting into our server logs. Let's start paying attention to the efficiency of our websites and to the long-term impact of lack of maintenance, and see if we can crown some new champions in human-led internet.
Let's do that. And thank you so much for being a no hack.